Can you see it in full screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So hello, everyone. We are a team named EntangledQuery. So this is a project we are working on to connect global quantum developers. And so today we are facing a lot of challenges. So there are climate change, public health, energy crisis. So all those challenges, they point to one problem. The computational power we have today is constraining what we can do for tomorrow. At the same time, the Moore's law is coming for its end, which means the potential power we can get from the classical computer in the future is limited, and we are not prepared for it. So what is the solution for that? Our answer is quantum computing. So it provides exponential faster computational power, so it can solve problems that cannot be solved by classical computers. So it helps us tackle those challenges. However, it also brings up more new challenges. For example, the current encryption method would be vulnerable to quantum computers.
Hi, Meng. You think you can use the slideshow mode? Right now, everyone can see the second screen.
Oh, that's not great. Let me just try and sorry.
No worries, no worries.
So which one should I share? Still seeing the second? Maybe this one.
Yeah, I think maybe you should just okay. Right now it's good.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So for all those questions, we have our answer. So our answer is the quantum computing. And when we are talking about the current encryption method, so we will say that because quantum computer is providing exponential faster computational power, so our current encryption would be very vulnerable to quantum computers. And with those challenges and opportunities, this quantum industry is thriving. And we are going to witness the next industry revolution very soon. So now there is a group of people who is working to play such an important role in this revolution. And I believe they will shape our future. So that's the quantum developers. With more and more investment coming into this industry, so this community is growing. So in quantum industry, it's going to heavily rely on the open source project. So it's going to rely on the open source developers. And at the same time, we live in a quantum world. All those classical computers can do is actually to simulate this quantum world. However, because of the quantum nature of quantum computing, so we can really calculate our world. Well, together as this quantum community, so quantum developers are changing this world. However, there are still some challenges we are facing, and the EntangledQuery is here to solve those problems. So myself as a quantum scientist and a quantum developer, so I deal with bugs, errors, and we need to do the troubleshooting every day. However, for whatever quantum errors I search in Google, I cannot find any useful discussions. I have to join some Slack channel, Discord groups with other developers, and I have to ask questions later. Well, after some time, these questions together with the answers, they will be buried in those chat histories and the threads. So if other people have the same question, so it's so hard for them to search in the Slack channel, it's so hard to search in the Discord, and eventually they have to ask the same question again. So in that sense, our community knowledge is scattered and buried. So this is not an efficient solution. And on the other hand, there is no existing platform that fits in our quantum language. Classical developers doesn't use quantum state. the classical computing is based on binary logic. But in quantum world, let's forget about the binary logic. We are in a superpositional state. Now, that means this community needs more infrastructure to help the community communicate efficiently. So yeah, in quantum computing, we talk about the quantum state, the quantum circuit. So it's so hard to find a platform that echoes our problem. And that's why we are here. Our vision is to create an open, global, inclusive, and open platform for quantum developers. So we are going to build a quantum nature knowledge sharing platform that incorporates all the quantum tools and the languages we are using here. And our product will help quantum community to precipitate high quality content. And that can be accessed by anyone in this world. So here is a list of current quantum troubleshooting methods. So for example, if I go to Qiskit, I might Qiskit Slack channel. So I might have timely response, but it doesn't support any other quantum library communities. So, and also I cannot search, and it's not open to everyone. So in the Stack Overflow, so I can search from Google, it's open, so it has good question, and it has good answer. However, it's not timely response, and the community is not gathered there. That's the problem now. So here in EntangledQuery, we are trying to solve all those problems, and our product will help this community to grow. Well, in the future, after the product, so we will host a hackathon, publish tutorials, and we will host quantum challenges to build a pathway for quantum beginners to quantum experts. Then we will gradually give the governance power to the community, and eventually, we are trying to build a DAO in this community. The more people contribute to this community, the more people contribute to the content and the knowledge sharing, they will have the more power to help the community governance. So that's our story for so far, and we are building our product. So please follow us on Twitter at EntangledQuery, and also, if you have questions, feel free to reach me through LinkedIn. Yeah, if you have any question, I'm very happy to answer.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Mohua, for the introduction of EntangledQuery. Quantum is actually a very advanced field for tech research right now. But if we organize the developer community in a decentralized way, it will be actually very interesting a way to organize the community in the future. And actually very advanced, even in blockchain right now. So very happy to know more about EntangledQuery in the discussion later. So the second project presenting today will be Alexandria. I met Dylan at the Harmony meetup 2 months ago, I believe, and very happy to be one of the first supporters of the whole Alexandria project, and would love to know more about Alexandria from Dylan's mouth.
All right. Hi, everyone. My team and I have been really hard at work for the past month now, and our energy has been really high, and the idea has been really far out there. And I know that everybody in this whole panel has probably got some wild ideas, and DAOs are really hot right now. And so we put a lot of last minute, like, think tank kind of ideas together. And I'm really happy to present what we have, because I'm an educator myself. I've been teaching Python for the last 3 years now, and I do programming lessons for for young students, and I honestly can say this with fact, is that anyone can learn how to code, and anyone can learn anything that they put their mind to. And it doesn't matter what background you are, it doesn't matter who you are. If you get the right materials, you can choose who you choose to be. And I sincerely believe that. I went from being somebody who didn't have much, and I picked up the right materials, and I just so happened to have the right materials, but not everyone's that lucky. So I want to talk about education, because that's the focus of my project that I want to share with you. So Alexandria, what is it? But I want to get into some background right now. Education is way too expensive for no really good reason across the board. And like I said, I got access to the right information because I just so happened to go to school, but I spent thousands of dollars for things that I could have just gone to Google for. And I think a lot of people can say that's very true, because just like with quantum, you can't find the information, even in school. Sometimes you got to write it down. You got to find the information in some way, but there's some things you have to go to school for, but not everyone can afford it. And student loan debt is above, I think, 1.5, where it says right here, $1.7 trillion at the end of 2020. And that's only going to get higher. And then also, as people graduate from school, the underemployment rate continues to go up, almost nearing 40%, which means that graduates are undervalued. As soon as they get out, they don't have the right job placement, and they're still loaded with debt. And the average borrower here in America, when I did these kind of like the Federal Reserve, it says $36,000, which to some people around the world, especially the disenfranchised, that's an astronomical amount of money. And the average loan payment for that is about the same as a car payment. And I looked it up. It's actually the same as my car payment. And I'm lucky that I bought myself an electric car, but it's also like nice. So I like my car, but it's expensive. And not everyone can afford that. And if you can't afford college, then the best thing to do after that is to go get certified. And so workers who typically go and get certified in like an IT profession, typically they earn about 30% more in wages. And the average certification is about $500, give or take, but it's not globally accepted. And a lot of people actually, they're going to look at your bachelor's or they're going to look at your master's and they're going to look at your certs. But the one thing that they want to know is whether or not you have the skill, whether or not you have the ability to say like program or to do the job that's at hand. And you can typically prove that when you're with them and they can see that you're skilled. And typically people go to do that when they're at a boot camp, but even boot camps cost like near $15,000, some are $20,000. The cheapest one I can find was about $5,000. So the question is how can we solve that when there's so many people who are out of reach in general? And this is a map of actually all the people who have access to the internet, because we would all think like, well, if not a cert and not a bachelor's, then why not just get an online education? And sometimes like Udemy courses or Coursera courses, these popular online institutions, they spend like $10. But again, not everybody has access to the same internet that we have. One of my teammates, his name is Sahid. He just came in and he's actually from West Africa. I'm blanking on the region's name, so excuse me for that. But he said that his mother lives there and she has to pay at least $50 for every gigabyte that she uses just to access the internet for one day. So how does somebody plan on taking an online course or getting their education, especially in areas where they're out of reach zones, and expect to graduate or even expect to compete with the rest of the world? It's not possible. So there's a lot of major issues. Number one, education is overpriced. And number two, the certifications and the bachelor's still don't guarantee you a job, or they don't guarantee you enough pay. And the underemployment rate has been the same for the past 30 years. And employers have a hard time finding the right workers to get people into the job because the certifications and the qualifications are all across the board. And hirers are relying on HRs to figure out who's the right fit with the right particular skill. And skill is not being equivalently matched to the job. And then the debt is insane. And then online schools don't have the right accreditation process. So we need something that's universal. So that's where this is coming in. How are we going to try to solve these issues is, number one, we have to have the incentive to get people on board to the right platform to start educating themselves with a purpose. So we came up with this solution of learn to earn. If you get paid to learn, you take classes and you can actually pay your debt off over time as the share that you bought into increases over an accumulated amount of time as learners buy into the actual system. And this learn to earn model, we're hoping, and after doing some metrics with our tokenomics, that it will pay it off over time. And not only that, but if we have a decentralized model that is allowing people to enter into education freely, then there also is a potential for universal credits that can be abroad across any transcript around the world, using a decentralized autonomous organization that will evolve the way that we actually organize institutions, especially educational ones. And then, not to say there is a low barrier to entry, but there is a definite low barrier to entry when you have the whole world who's able to access this information. And we're going to try to make it really inexpensive. But the thing is that how about for those out of reach people? So that's another thing. So we have to make it accessible so that they not only have to not only rely on the online resource, but they're also able to take it away and then send in their physical copies, their tests, to a DAO that is able to approve of this. So that way online takers and also offline takers can have the same accreditation, because equality has to kind of equate across the board. As our infrastructure of the internet continues to develop, that's a bigger problem. But this is a surefire way of us actually trying to get up to speed at least. And not only that is that we're not limiting the amount of people that can come onto the network. Anybody from any socioeconomic background is then allowed to create new course paid work, and it's through Web3. And the quality and the validity of that work is then shared on Alexandria and verified by the Alexander DAO. I'm going to show you what that means right now. So how we came up with our model is that it's typically, this is actually something that we got from Harmony since we work alongside of Harmony, but there is a DAO structure and we kind of wanted to follow suit with that. So there was a large voter pool, about half of the pool when it comes to the voting process. They decide who are the certified board of directors, and then they are also deciding on who the board of approvals are. So the approvers are verifying the documents that are coming into Alexandria, and the certified board of directors are making sure they're making certified content that will then live decentrally and certified for the existence of the blockchain. And the whole idea is that the library of Alexandria got burned down centuries ago. So the one thing you can't burn down is the blockchain. So you might as well put public education in some form on it. So the mission is to make sure that we have mass adoption of online education, but the online education has another avenue for it to branch off so that it can be taken physically and sent in to the DAO. That way the DAO is constantly in motion and in work. The DAO is constantly reversing itself every 6 quarters, and we have a fall and we have a spring semester. So there's new courses happening all the time, and the governors of that DAO, they're switching the courses endlessly. They're certifying and they're approving students, and they're certifying and they're approving students 24/7, making the credits universally accepted. People are paying in ANA. So we called our coin the Andrea token, which is right down here on the bottom left. It's kind of retro. I like the design. And beyond that, it's not only is it going to be fair, but it's going to be equally compensated. So the DAO is actually making sure that they're bringing in the right certifications and the right materials for students to learn and have universal credits. and they're getting paid for it every spring and winter and fall semester. So their incentive is essentially to be like a school board, no different than how a university would be, except that it's always switching and there's no hierarchy. There's no leadership in that kind of way, because that's not what DAOs are supposed to be. And we're trying to make it so that we're giving people the opportunity to be masters at what they do, and then give people the same opportunity. And what do I mean by that? So community education also equals the amount of commissions that they're going to be allowed to earn. So masters of their craft can also come on board and certify their certifications and their other courses. But people just like on Udemy and Coursera, they're more than welcome to come on and bring a course on that's not quote unquote accredited, but it can still be shared with the rest of the world. And the great thing is that anyone can buy the Andrea token and participate in every single cycle. So spring, winter, and fall semesters, if you have Andrea, you're able to vote for the right teachers and the right accreditations that you want. And many students who pay for those courses, they're going to get some special guarantees like a really nice NFT. And I'm going to show you some of that right now. And we made a little demo site of what this would actually look like. So it is a web application. And before I do that, we're trying to push it to Harmony. That's what this will be. And there's a little quote: "The future of public DAOs relies on the strength of the tools that serve them." So we're trying to make a compilation of different tools and utilities, putting them together, and we're making a decentralized university out of the things that already exist out there. So Alexandria. So it will be a decentralized institution that anybody can access. This would be something like the home page. They are allowed to go to check out our Defender DAO, check out some of the community, and then also they're going to have the ability to teach. If they go and click enter the class, they're going to be joined into our homepage. And then the homepage will look similar to something that's very Web 2. And we wanted to have it to have like a very Web 2, Web 3 different feel, like a combination of the two. And as we scroll down, we're going to have many different courses of all kinds. And this is where the public is actually going to be able to introduce themselves and teach something to the decentralized audience. And if you can tell, it's very reminiscent of an NFT marketplace, but instead of NFTs, it is an NFT, but it's also a course behind it. So you're not only learning and you're earning, but you're also getting a very unique NFT. And the idea is if you finish first, you're going to get a very special unique NFT. So all the NFTs are going to be generative. So if you're the 500th person, well, you're out of luck. But there is that competition. If you can beat your fellow colleagues, maybe you can get the highest grade. If you, whatever those traits are, we're going to put them all into these NFTs, and they're going to be worth something at the end of the day. And also those same teachers can say how much it's worth, and then how much they're going to actually give back once the student applies, takes the test, and then finishes the course. And I'm going to show you what some of those courses look like. We actually made an entire 5-lesson series on just Solidity because we're building this whole thing out of multiple smart contracts. So I'll show you that in a second. And this would be something like the panel board of the certified board of directors. And these are the accredited courses, and they're labeled with a white Andrea. So something pretty cool. And then we were thinking about, let's like add some networking rooms. That would be pretty cool, where we can use our NFT badges as emotes in chat when we talk to each other. Something weird. But yeah, ultimately your transcript is a unique collection of NFTs, and they accrue value over time. So when you learn, you literally earn, and that's the whole purpose of this. And when you learn any lesson, you're rewarded Andrea tokens and an NFT badge, and you can trade that anytime you want. I love our logo. I think it's really cool looking. And yeah, and then there's going to be a large community. We're trying to decentralize the way that we do research and also how we accredit ourselves academically. A universal standard of verifying our professionalism, our work ethic, and the dedication towards our practices while bridging all socioeconomic backgrounds. And that's the primary goal. And then you can enter the DAO, and if you want to, you can be a part of it, or you can actually teach for it. and you can learn from the best for a fraction of the price, which is the goal. We can try to make sure that when you join the DAO, you are teaching the whole world and not just a fraction of it, like I was mentioning before with the internet out of reach zones. And we're trying to take lessons to a whole different level. So when you join the DAO, you're going to be entered into a page. You're going to have people that you can vote for, and you're going to be able to vote for any teacher, any accredited person that you want. These people have their own info behind them. They have their own professions. They have their own careers, but then they come over to Alexandria and they want to bring their professions to a whole new level and have the DAO actually certify them as accredited actors in the space. And so this would be our DAO board. And there's a different examples. And you would connect your wallet and you would vote for them. And if you don't have any Andrea, then you would just go to our internal exchange and flip it from any other like Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever you want, and then flip it right into Andrea. And then that's how you're going to be able to participate back in the inside of the actual lesson portal. So outside of that, just really quick, I want to just show you our lesson plan because we worked really hard on it. So we basically broke down the entirety of Ethereum in 2 weeks, and we made it digestible in 1 hour. So for example, we're trying to make it so quality where anybody can come to our platform and they can learn something. So this is an entire briefing of all things Ethereum, EVM, the history, the cyberpunk movement that even started it, the intro to Ethereum, going all the way down for Ethereum for Dummies, all sorts of things. It keeps going from blocks to what are dApps to what what is essentially a DAO, how to mine, what is Web3, and this just goes on and on all the way down to how to actually set up your own node and what are cryptocurrencies. And we also made the same plans for actually coding and Solidity. So spent a lot of time on doing this with my whole team, and they were really great at making sure that they set this up. Benjamin was actually editing most of this all in his spare time. So he spent so much time doing this. It's crazy. But this is an entire Solidity lesson plan from beginning to end with contracts that you can download, you can actually take a look at. And I actually developed these myself. So you can go in, you can actually read each and every single comment on there, and you can understand Solidity at a very, very, very acute angle. So, and that's the same thing for building your own NFT, building your own dApp, and so on. And then there's other raw guides, like we have a Git guide and so on. So we started with software development, and that's going to be our first implementation on this platform. So yeah, I'm excited that this is happening and this is working. And the next push is to actually send it out as a dApp and get it fully functioning with the UI and in the matter of the next month, and then just get a bunch of people on board. So thank you so much for letting me speak. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, Dylan. I'm very, very impressed, as in you have made so much progress in the past month. You and your team did great. You designed the tokenomics. You had a lot of the demos and UI ready. So I'm very excited to see your progress. A lot of hard work has been done, and I look forward to actually more progress coming from your team in the near future. How Daorayaki is forming a decentralized media right now, media platform.
Okay, I share my computer. Wait. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to introduce Daorayaki and the first round of Dora Factory community grant. I'm Doctor, co-founder of Daorayaki. Before introduce what did do Daorayaki, I would like to discuss something about the current study of media with you. Nowadays, what kind of world we live in? Actually, can we tell? The media is a form for the free expression of will and the communication of the most trustful information. Without the media, democratic election would be impossible, but the created media platform has become the resource between the patents, just like a series of political black swan events that happened. This makes us very shocked. No matter whether there is any election fraud, it is a fact that media is losing its independence. More subtly, Silicon Valley as the representative of the technology media is also losing the battle against the actual misinformation. This fact shows us that the media is eating the democracy. The COVID-19 virus swept over daily life. We have never been conscious like now, and the flow of humans is like being pressed. It is a battle of humans, but there are companies using media platform for profit, and political parties using media tools to promote disinformation to control public sense. As seen just now we seen this graph. In response to rumors of COVID-19 virus, a team of researchers checked the truth of the information, and suddenly we found these factors. Free media is closely related to democracy, and in order to achieve democracy, the logical conclusion is that the more the better, including newspapers, TV stations, editors, writers, technology media platform, so on. But now we are seeing opposing direction. Take American as an example. In 1983, there were 15 dominant traditional media companies. Today, there are only 5. These 5 companies growth own about 19% of the media in the US. With the development of the internet and the technology, media play a very important role in our lives. Technology media platform different from traditional media platform. Their coverage more wide and the communication speed is more faster. This media controlled by smallest number of owners in history. Another question here, who owns the corporate media? In a set of survey data, we found that in 20 countries, only 9 countries can report from the media regulatory authority or company registration agency to understand who is the actual owner of the media. Currently, most countries are not required to disclose the owner of a media organization to the regulator. The transparency of the media is no longer received. Even though we compromise the received information, how to protect our privacy and interest is still a big problem. Personal information is traded and exploited. We contribute to platform and also pay for them. And the information we have seen is controlled by the algorithm, so that information personal is formed. This is war. This is the world we live in now. In the face of these problems, we need media systems that service people's needs, not complete and national media systems. Media systems that democratic governance and everyone can use. Based on the above background, Daorayaki is devoted to building a decentralized media with openness, free will, and value sharing. Daorayaki is the first decentralized media community in China focusing on DAO research and communication. It is launched by the co-community members of DAO1. DAO1 is China's first DAO organization and also received support from Dora Factory. Daorayaki is different from traditional corporate media and standard media. Corporate media has very
Sorry, Wendy. Yeah, just wondering if you are sharing any like other pages other than your front page, because I'm still seeing the first page of the presentation right now.
Oh, okay. Now can wait. Sorry.
All right. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
there was some problem.
Yeah. Corporate media has very obvious features. Firstly, founders and media owners are not the same group of people. Secondly, company controlled by a board of directors, operators the media. Then writers are heard and companies preferred from media audience central traffic. And about DAO media, firstly, the media company is replaced by a DAO committee that can be elected on the chair and is responsible for operational work and content review. Founders and users are overlapped and the relationship take place changes. Contributor incentives change from company employment to DAO incentives. Daorayaki features complete the traditional media model, a change in the relationship between media content contributors and user. Also, the preferred and governance model of media have changed. Daorayaki believes in the innovation brought by decentralized media and will devote significant resource to promote the development of DAO. Therefore, since it is launched, Daorayaki has been committed to building a new type of funding and research and communication relationship. About the research, we focus on the most urgent and important current issues in the DAO field, while supporting research in the bank or earlier stage areas. As a decentralized media, the value collaboration network is very important. So from the creation of Daorayaki to the present and in the future, we will work to building such a network. Daorayaki goal is to build products that enable collaboration in the content space to connect and collaboration effectively. This include tools and process of collaboration, governance, and funding management. In order to development, Daorayaki need to physician with multiple ecosystems. So Daorayaki will fund DAO research and practice through bounty grant and token exchange. Regarding Daorayaki governance mechanism, we now mainly focus on 4 aspects. Since Daorayaki is still an earlier project, this mechanism are very simple. They will continue to be improved as the project develops. Firstly, about the proposal mainly include content incentives, update governance mechanism, and community elections. Secondly, the main responsibilities of the creator committee are related to the content. About vote mechanisms, in the earlier days of Daorayaki, the committee used a simple measured voting mechanisms, and articles with voting result current 14% can be published. Currently, the voting mechanism of the Daorayaki committee has been upgraded to adopt the voting mechanism of Markdown. Regarding treasury, yeah.
The slides are not moving, so we're still seeing the same slide.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Now it's moving. Oh, haven't.
No.
Still no. Sorry. Let me give me 1 minute. So I change another software to open this.
No worries. We actually, like, if you're presenting just the smaller one right now, it actually works.
Okay.
So maybe you can just change slides using the smaller one, like what we're showing right now.
Okay, try. Sorry. Wait. Sorry. Why I can't open the Zoom? Wait. In here. Sorry. Let me. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, I think maybe just like you don't have to go into the slide mode. It's also good to just show the slides here.
Now it's okay.
Yeah. I think it's okay right now.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
No worries.
About treasury. Another beginning, we manage the funds based on the Markdown. Considering efficiency and secret, we now use multiple signature validators for funds management. And from January to now, Daorayaki has covered 14 projects and created 65 original articles. For more information, welcome to Daorayaki website. About the grant update, the Daorayaki will be used to grant content contributors. And at the same time, at this stage, we will focus on building a communicator network and improving governance and incentive mechanisms. We hope that in December, the first round of funding or token distribution can be carried out so that we have the ability to build intermediate products. Daorayaki is still in the earlier stages, so we need to promote the development of decentralized media with more contributors. If you have any interesting in DAO, join us. The following is our contact information. Thanks. I'm so sorry because this that's good.
No worries. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we can find a way for Wendy to share the deck that she's presenting today to the community later.
Yeah. Sure.
No worries.
Yeah, I think also there's a website, Daorayaki.org, which is presented on this page. So I think like Wendy is organizing a awesome contributor network, and it's producing research articles and project reports, etc. every day. I think it's the most productive Chinese DAO research media right now, if I'm correct. And you can just go to Daorayaki.org and read about all the articles.
Yeah, essentially, Daorayaki is covering all DAO-related research and articles in Chinese. Like, if anyone in the community that actually would love to join Daorayaki for research or contribute or even to sponsor, feel free to reach out to Vindy or to our team for future partnerships and contribution to this Daorayaki DAO in the future. Awesome. So the fifth project sharing today, Itheum. We're very happy to have Mark today to share the world's first decentralized data brokerage, a cross-chain platform that enables seamless sale of personal data as an asset.
Hi, everybody. And, hi, Steve. Let me just share my screen.
Yeah.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it perfectly.
I'm just going to put it on slideshow mode. So hi, everybody. Some really interesting projects, and we're really privileged to be here to talk about Itheum. My name is Mark Paul. I'm one of the founding members of Itheum. So Itheum aims to be the world's first decentralized cross-chain data brokerage service. The team has been building Itheum for the last 4 months, and we are very excited to share our DAO designs with you today. So let me just go to the next slide. Okay. All right, so I'm going to spend a bit of time to talk about the problem and then what Itheum's trying to do to solve this problem. And essentially, this would highlight the reason why we've designed our DAOs in the way that we're going to present later on. So the problem is that you see in the world today is basically the issue of centralized data brokerage, right? So these first-party data brokers and third-party data brokers, as you see in the screen, they collect, hoard, use, and sell your personal data for profit. And most of this is happening behind the scenes, and you wouldn't even be aware of this, for example. So this is a real issue that we feel that needs to be addressed. And we feel that blockchain technology is the ideal medium to address this problem. All right, so and you could probably wonder why data brokerage is such a so many companies are dealing with it. Well, that's because your personal data, believe it or not, is worth a lot of money. Your health data, for example, is worth $1,500 a year. If it's sold as a part of a data set, it's significantly more valuable. And more critical information like your DNA and your phenotypic data is worth over $7,000 a year. So it's no surprise that the global data brokerage market is sitting at $200 billion per year. All right, so this is the world today with centralized data brokers, right? So on screen here, you see that's you here. You're collecting data you're actually submitting or you're using apps and sort of websites that are built by these big enterprises who are essentially hoarding your data. And you'll see right there in the middle of the screen, you get this wall of data brokers. And what they are basically enabling is for the data to only remain within the one side of the screen, which is kind of where all these centralized big entities are hoarding your data in their silos. On the other side of the screen here, you see all these researchers and small to medium businesses or drug discovery teams. They get very little access to this data. And the outcome of that is, if you can look at the bottom of the screen there, is if you look at data innovations like the early detection of diseases like cancer, or understanding socioeconomic gaps better, or to gain better access to financial aid, a lot of these sort of innovation is now only an exclusive paid product that's put out to market by these big enterprises. So this is the issue of centralized data brokerage, and this is the issue that Itheum collectively aims to solve. So how are we doing this? Well, we have a whole bunch of features which form what we call the data decks. I'm not going to go through all of these features, but there's a few features in there that I've highlighted in a gray circle that is relevant to this discussion about the DAOs that we have built. So one of those features is called the data coalitions, which allows for the grouped bulk sale of personal data. We got another feature called peer-to-peer sales, which allows you to sell data directly to a seller in a peer-to-peer manner. We got the concept of data NFTs, which lets you wrap your personal data as an NFT, mint limited versions of it, and earn royalties on resale. And at the bottom there, we have this concept of data vaults, which lets you sell your really sensitive personal information that you wouldn't generally just go and sell it openly. So these features and the other features you see up there work in unison. And when they work together, they enable for the seamless flow of data from the data generator, which is you, to the data buyers. And then this allows some more sort of open data innovation. All right, so now we're heading into the more sort of DAO-based discussion about how Itheum utilizes DAOs. So Itheum fundamentally has two DAOs, right? Or actually, there's more, but in its core entity, there's two DAOs. We have the foundation DAO, and this is for the overall platform governance. And secondly, and more importantly, we have the concept of data coalition DAOs. Now, data coalition DAOs, there can be n number of data coalition DAOs because, as if you remember my previous slide, data coalitions sell data in bulk. So there can be different types of coalitions for different types of data. So each one of those coalitions is a DAO, and the foundation DAO is essentially a DAO of DAOs because it's responsible for the governance of all these individual decentralized autonomous organizations, which are data coalition DAOs. Okay, so now let's just kind of focus into what our data coalitions are, and then we'll go into the design of the actual DAO. So like I was talking about, the data coalitions are DAOs by themselves, and they enable the autonomous bulk sale of personal data. Now, there can be different types of data coalitions. There could be, and they're usually niched segment or region-based bulk sellers of data. For example, there could be a health and wellness data coalition, a financial data coalition, or even regional, right? So there could be an EU-based marketing data coalition, which only allows for the sale of data in the EU region. Data creators are just you and me. We can be anybody, and we can choose to align to a data coalition. And a data coalition can sell different types of data. It can sell data sets, it can sell data packs, or very interestingly, it can sell this thing called a data NFT, which is a concept that we have actually pioneered. So there will be a network of data coalitions, like I mentioned. So Itheum is essentially a DAO of DAOs. Now, in future, data coalitions will be able to trade amongst themselves and even be connected to autonomous machines, right? So, for example, variables could trade with other data coalitions. They could supply and buy electric vehicles, would also participate in such a data economy. Now we're heading more into the DAO design. So our data coalition DAOs actually modeled after real-world credit unions. So you would be familiar with the concept of a credit union. This is not a blockchain concept. It's a real-world concept. It's one of the oldest institutions that essentially looks after a fund of money on behalf of its members' best interest, unlike a bank, which is a central sort of entity run by centrally controlled people. Credit unions are quite sort of an interesting decentralized model in the real world. So our data coalition DAOs essentially have a chair, which is the creator of the coalition. We have board members who are dedicated representatives of the coalition. And then we have members, which are you and me, and we can kind of share our data. And we also get people who can stake as well as members. So interestingly, you don't have to actually, if you want to participate in the Itheum's ecosystem, you don't have to sell your data. You can actually enter the data DEX and you can stake into existing coalitions. And staking is a flag to indicate the confidence score that the data actually contains, which is an interesting idea. Okay, so now we're going to go into the more detailed DAO designs of Itheum. Okay, so the first DAO that we have is called the Itheum Foundation DAO, or the IF DAO. We only have a single Itheum Foundation DAO, and its responsibility is the governance of the Itheum platform, and it's also the DAO of DAOs. So you can stake MIDA into that. MIDA is a utility token, and you receive governance token in return relative to your stake amount, as well as the length of your stake. So it's not just pure stake amount, it's actually calculated based on the length of your stake as well. Now, your stake MIDA is held in a foundation pool. And one of the most important design decisions here is that you can exit anytime. So you're not locked in. It's not like a bond where you are bonded for a certain time. You can exit anytime, and this is very important, and I'll explain why shortly. So holding the governance token gives you voting rights on proposals. Our voting is by direct democracy, so there's a quorum-based voting here. So it's the simplest, most robust, battle-tested system on the blockchain space at the moment now. So one of the main responsibilities of the IF DAO or the foundation DAO is to maintain the product roadmap. So our roadmap is fully public. You can actually go and have a look at it in the URL there. And the IF DAO decides which feature is worked on when and which feature does the core team work on. So as I mentioned, the decision-making is via proposals. An example would be they can update the quorum percentage that is required for a proposal to pass, or they will approve new data coalition applications. So if you want to start a new data coalition, you need to apply, and this DAO will approve it. They manage core data coalition parameters like the minimum or maximum members of a coalition, the minimum fees to join a coalition, etc. They set the Harburger tax rate on coalitions managing data NFTs. So if you're familiar with what this Harburger tax rate is, it's to make sure that people don't hoard their data, and essentially to make sure that their data is always on sale. So this creates a very interesting dynamic where really important and interesting data is constantly being traded. The next thing is that it manages the key pool parameters for the personal data vault, and it manages the node parameters for our trusted computation framework. So those two are quite in-depth topics, which I'm happy to talk about in a separate discussion. So the risks of this DAO design is, of course, when you're talking about quorum-based DAOs, you always have the governance lock. So what happens if you don't reach the quorum? So you'll have proposals essentially just sitting there. So that's always a problem. And also with this kind of design, you get whale dominance, where maybe potentially people who have more MIDA, who are willing to stake for a long time, would dominate the voting, which is also not very good. Okay, so now we're jumping into our second DAO design, which is our data coalitions DAO design. So as I was mentioning, each data coalition DAO is actually an independent entity, and there can be n number of data coalition DAOs within the Itheum ecosystem. So how do you start a data coalition and DAO? So well, anybody can fill an application form to start a data coalition DAO. To do that, you need to stake bond your MIDA. So when I say stake bond, it's not a stake or a bond, it's both. In other words, you have to make sure your MIDA is locked in for a certain amount of time, and you could potentially lose that MIDA as part of the fund pool that I'm talking about below there. So the foundation DAO needs to approve each application. The approved application fee then goes into a DC fund pool. The DC fund pool is then used for arbitration and dispute resolution in contentious sales of data. So imagine you're selling your data through a coalition. The buyer buys it and he uses it for something that he's not supposed to, or maybe the quality of the data was bad. You get a contentious sale of data. So you need some sort of fund pool to do dispute resolution. That's what this is used for. The submitter of the data, the new data coalition, becomes the chair and the first board member in that coalition. And one of his responsibilities, he sets the initial parameters. He or she sets the initial parameters of the data coalition. In other words, this is the minimum or maximum members. What are the fees to join the coalition as a board member? What are the terms of sale of the data within the coalition and the sale price, etc. So once that's done, anybody can then come and link their data and align to a data coalition that they feel is suited to them, and then they can join as a member. And they can optionally stake MIDA as well. So that's an optional thing, but they can do that as well. Now the bonders, in this case, the board members, keep in mind that they're bonding, so they cannot take off their MIDA at any time. And the stakers, which are the members who are joining to sell their data, receive share tokens in relative to what they're putting in. And then what that's used for is basically the members and board members get a majority share of each sale that the coalition handles. And then a minority sale of each data that's sold could be then sent to people who don't stake as well. And also the other important part here is the high reputation data creator. So if they are submitting good data and they're being flagged as high reputation data, they earn more share tokens as well. Okay, so how does voting happen? Well, unlike the other DAO, in the Data Coalition, only board members can vote on motions, and this is representative democracy. And also very interesting, like Malak DAO, of course, it is permission entry for new board members. So not anybody can become a board member. Existing board members need to recommend you via a motion. And when the existing board members vote you in, then you are now a board member. And there is not an infinite amount of board members. There's actually a ceiling or a max amount of board members as well. And voting here is by simple majority, so there's no quorum. And the reason it is so is that because we need fast decisions on data sales. So if somebody is wanting to buy the data from the coalition, you need to make a fast decision. If you had a quorum, you might not reach that quorum, you might not sell. So simple majority with permission entry is, we feel, a good design here. And in this scenario as well, the members can exit anytime, but the board members will need a motion passed to leave, or they need to see out the term of their bond, and only then that they can leave. All right, so the decision making, like I said, is via motions. You can accept new board members. It manages you can manage the terms of the sale of the data. You can handle dispute resolution via arbitration or compensation to the buyer or seller. You can set the market price of the data. You can process the purchase requests, make sure that the right people are buying your data, essentially. And you can even flag data quality issues and reputation scores for the sellers of the data. Now, the risks of the design that we have here is with the permission entry and simple majority, there's always the risk that even low participation means motions can get passed. For example, it just takes one vote to pass a certain motion. So it's a pros and cons, right? So the pros here is that participants in this DAO need to be actively involved. And if they don't agree with something, they need to come to the table and vote. If they don't do that, maybe somebody else would vote it through. So that's actually a good thing, we feel. The other risk here is board member centralization, maybe because it's permission entry, maybe the board members just bring on people that they know and then they control it. But there are ways to mitigate that as well. And the other risk there is the DC fund pool might, if people start leaving very regularly, it might get unbalanced and might not be able to handle the dispute resolution accordingly. So how do we deal with this? If these sort of issues happen when we deploy, then we might convert this to liquid democracy and add a quorum and then probably see if that works better in this scenario. All right, it's my last slide here. So I thought I'd just take this opportunity to talk about our design principles. We are big fans of Malak DAO's simplistic sort of design principles. So we have adopted that and kind of added a few more of our own. So our DAO contracts will aim to be super simple. We're not going to try to do too many things in there. And by keeping it simple, we can secure it more. All of these operational elements like applications to join, all of these things will happen off-chain. So the only decisions that happen on-chain are the votes. And this way we can keep these DAO contracts super simple. We are also big fans of Malak DAOs and Ethereum sort of meme-based development, if you're familiar with that. And also we're a big fan of the exit anytime principle or rage quitting principle. So what that enables you to do is you can build your DAO MVP, you deploy it, you test it, and the fact that there's exit anytime or rage quitting, you can upgrade it later on and get people onto the new DAO. So this is the kind of approach we want to do. We want to iterate really quickly. And finally, the reason why we are actually in this sort of hackathon and the grant process is we don't want to reinvent the wheel and build all of these things. We'd rather align with somebody like Dora Factory and use their palettes in the libraries for things. We use all of these things. We need democracy, we need voting, we need dispute resolution, member management. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We prefer to use sort of security audited frameworks for that. And finally is we always question, do we really need additional governance tokens? We might even align our utility token just to be the governance token. And that way we don't have a proliferation of tokens within the platform. So we've been building for like crazy for the last 4 months. We're already deployed to multiple testnets. So we're already on Ethereum and Polygon. And we are working to deploy into many more chains because we are cross-chain. We're keen to get that whole interaction happening cross-chain. And finally, I encourage everybody who's watching this to come and follow us, reach us, join our communities, add us on Twitter and join our Discord, and you can talk to us directly, and I'm happy to answer any questions or help anybody in any way we can. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Mark, for such comprehensive introduction of Itheum. I'm very happy to see your progress, especially on the whole DAO system design. We can see a lot of interesting schemes from medical markets, from all that. So very happy to see your team's understanding in DAO function governance and integration into your project. So yeah, the sixth project and the second last presenting today is Ethsign, is an old friend of Dora Hacks and Dora Factory. We have two of the co-founders, Yanxin and Potter Lee, joining us today to introduce the Web3 version of e-signing.
Hi, Steve. It's good to see everyone here. And I'm Potter, and me and Xin were the co-founders of Ethsign. And we would love to, present some new updates of Ethsign, as well as our related work with DAO as well. Yeah. Please let me. 1 sec. Oops. One second. Sorry, Pete. All right, can you guys see this?
Yeah.
All right, sounds great. All right. Without further ado, I think we've been long friends with, close friends with Dora Factory and Dora Hacks. We've been presented several of our iterations in the process of Dora Hacks hackathon and so. So, here I would love to present to all of you about the newest updates and what we have been building for the last 3 months. So right now, Ethsign 3.0 is live. You can go on ethsign.xyz, ethsign.xyz to try our product out. Essentially, right now you can upload a PDF document and you can send it to third parties and set a passphrase for that document, and you can sign it directly with the private key, and you have a very clear and transparent lifecycle management of all your documents that store on chain. Before I get into some details of our new updates, I would love to share with you all how we are able to build a fully decentralized Web3 tech stack signing application with all these protocols that we've been using. Essentially, Ethsign doesn't have any server at all, and even our website is hosted on IPFS and Arweave. So it eliminates all the privacy and censorship concerns. So at the end users part, we see a lot of familiar wallet and key private key managements, including token, sorry, MetaMask, Trezor, etc. And these are the most common used, like DID or wallet that's in the Web3 world. But we also offer Taurus Informatic to introduce the login with create a private SaaS private key with your traditional socials, for example, Twitter, email, Gmail, Google, whatever, so that Web 2.0 users can easily access Ethsign without having a wallet or private key, because these two protocols will generate that for them. And we also integrated ENS, where you can directly invite the third party to sign the contract with his or her ENS. Essentially, why we think it's important, because we believe in the future that all the big institutions will have ENS, because it can link with different private keys, and also the ENS can have subdomains and all that. We think is very suitable for in institutional environment. And also, if you lost a private key, you can always link it with another one and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. And in the middle layer, we see Chainlink and the Graph. Essentially, these two protocols are for on-chain, off-chain interoperabilities. And we use the Graph a lot to improve our user experience by letting it to query all the data for your blockchain address on chain, right? So beforehand, it will be a couple minutes to query all the data with related addresses, but with the graph, you're able to do it within 2 seconds or 3 seconds, something like this. Greatly improve the user experience, I would say. And all the signatures are directly generated from your private key. And we deployed all of the smart contract in all the EVM in the major EVM compatible blockchains, including Avalanche, BSC, Phantom, Polygon, Ethereum, of course, and Moonbeam from the Polkadot ecosystem. And we store the actual document, the PDF file, in the decentralized storage, and we choose Arweave by default because it is a permanent storage platform that once you store it, it'll be once you pay the fee, and it can be stored forever. But we also offer IPFS, Sire, and Filecoin as well, just to give users a very flexible choose on which one they want to use. I don't know if you guys have already used Ethsign or checked it out previously, but right now we are presenting some of our new features that we do not have before. One will be digital signature verification and contract audit. So for example, if both parties sign a contract on chain and they need a third party in all the company to verify the contract or see if it's on chain, we provide this UI to this functionality that actually a third party can verify the document was signed or not by providing the document key and the signer's address. And if it is valid, then it will be something like this. So it will say, okay, the signature is valid, and it will provide with the document name, document key, the additional sign by which address, and also the signature applied date. So when the signature was generated or when it was signed. And here to give a more detail on the whole life cycle management of document, you can clearly see who created it and at what time, when it is shared with third party, who signed it, and when it's stored in the blockchain and stuff, all that. And that is all our first new features, which is called the verify your digital signatures. And we actually, in our second major updates, is that we're going to allow an email notification that's embedded into Ethsign. So think of right now, the workflow will be when you log into Ethsign, you will be asked to link an email address to your DID. Of course, you're not forced to do so. It's just only for your own user experience, right? And if you choose to link your address with the email, then when every contract that's signed on chain, then we integrated the HAL protocol to trigger the implementation, so that each address holder will receive a notification from their email address. So that, for example, right now, if I invite you to sign a document, you will be not able to receive any notification off chain because it's purely on chain, right? You will be only to figure it out when you logged into the platform and you'll be able to see that you're being invited to sign the documents. But right now, with the embedded email notification functionality, that we are able to to send off-chain notification to all the users, so that you can directly get it from your email. And in the future, we're going to also support Telegram, Discord, and etc. So there'll be better UX for the users. And this will be some templates or the email format that you're going to receive. And you can directly click on your email and to link it to the Ethsign and link it to the Ethsign main page. And you can log in. After you log in with your DIDs, you can directly sign it without going to further steps and stuff like that. So we think that's something that's pretty cool, right? For example, right now for DocuSign, it's for email notification. We're trying to catch up that kind of level of UX. And the other problems that we get a lot is that when users they are entering into Ethsign, they oftentimes they're although we listed every of our required steps or our tutorials in our Git book, but not everyone is going to go to our Gitbook and to go through it really thoroughly and to check out a tutorial. So that we actually we have also do like a live tutorial where it can guide you if you're a new user, it can guide you every single step that you need to complete a document signing process in Ethsign. So essentially, it will go through where you can upload the document, where you can share with the third party, and where to sign it, where to sign it, and with what format, etc., etc. So that in this case, all the new users that's new to this platform will be able to go through the whole process of Ethsign and Ethign's workflow, and to really get to know how to use it. Because we believe our UI and UX is actually the user experience is actually very simple. I would say after run through a one tutorial, you will be able to know how to use it fairly easily. And this is something that's new to us as well, because in the Sign Week, which is the operation event that we hosted at the beginning of August, we're able to integrate Biconomy to allow users to go on Ethsign and to sign any documents without paying gas fees, so without paying native tokens. So in the future, we are already in design, and we probably announced it in the future weeks, is that we're going to announce something called Sign Pass. So Sign Pass essentially is a ERC 721 token, and whoever holds the Sign Pass will be able to be whitelisted and they do not need to pay any gas fee on certain blockchain networks. So at first, we're going to introduce the Sign Pass on Polygon network and the Sign Pass on BSC network. In the future, when we are able to batch the signatures and reduce the gas fee on Ethereum, we will be able to introduce the Sign Pass on Ethereum as well. And also it will be a limited edition of Sign Pass, where it's an NFT that allows the users or institutions to give access to be whitelisted to sign contracts on every blockchain networks of Ethsign. So it can be something we can create more business model, including subscription, something like that. But it was something we think that's really, really cool, and it can link, and all the NFT that we are going to issue will be listed on the NFT marketplace, and also we're going to airdrop some. So stay tuned for that as well. So something just to something more I just want to add up at some points here. So essentially, think of a Web 2.0 user's point of view, right? If they want to use a Web 3 or a D app, many of the times they are frightened by all the technical details. For example, like blockchain, crypto, addresses, gas fee, gas token, all that. They just mess up with their heads and stuff. So essentially, we want to create a seamless UX for not just for Web3 ecosystem, Web3 good of community, but also we will also want to beyond the crypto world to impress the Web2 world, right? So right now, when they log into Ethsign, they can already choose their traditional social logins with Taurus and Informatic, and then they can link with their email addresses and to give like an email notification when they received or signed a document. And they can be whitelisted and do not need to pay any gas fee by owning this NFT. So and they'll be able to don't worry about gas fee at all. So the whole process that we're trying to build is an entry point for Web2 users to enter into Web3 as well. So this product, crypto and blockchain, was supposed to be a global solution at the beginning. And we're not trying to eliminate ourselves just in Web3 world, but also providing this decentralized solution to the Web2 point of users. So that's what we want to do in the future as well. And we're actually going to announce some partnerships in some use case with different platforms and protocols in the coming weeks. And I'll just although I cannot disclose the names right now, but I can give like a a brief rundown of how each one we are going to do. So the first one is actually we're going to partner with a asset-backed token platform. So through this partnership, the asset-backed token platform will be able to provide the borrowers with the same off-chain electronic signature experience without the need of conventional notarization processes. Borrowers will be able to execute contracts and agreements digitally on-chain, and therefore significantly reducing the friction in a DeFi to CeFi lending process. And also, the on-chain signature will be bundled with underlying collateral and distributed to the ecosystem partnerships as proof of identity and legality. Essentially, think of a real-world asset wants to go on-chain and mint it into asset-backed token, how a signing process is inevitable in the whole workflow. And we're trying to set a standard and set a benchmark in this scenario to provide a more thorough and more clear, transparent workflow working with asset-backed token platform. And the second use case that we're going to introduce is with DKYC platforms and with a launchpad. So essentially, although Ethsign does not require users to upload their own KYC to the platform, but in many use cases, or in many cases, in signing contract, you need to provide a KYC. For example, it's an investment contract, safe, etc. You need to verify your KYC. So we're going to work with a DKYC platform, and essentially when users, they upload and they finish their KYC process, they can directly go on Ethsign and sign the safe, whatever, and to go onto the launchpad and to trade or buy cryptos and stuff, and to participate ICO and that kind of interesting scenarios. And we are going to integrate Ethsign into both of the workflow to essentially create a seamless transition and seamless process during the whole experience. And that will be also very exciting as well. All right. Everything I've talked about is with Ethsign 3.0, which is a document signing or PDF signing platform that we introduced in the beginning of July. So if you guys are interested, please go on ethsign.xyz and try it. Sign your first document. Sign your first document today. And actually, after we've been carefully or detailed discovering into the PDF signing world, we find that when you sign a contract with different parties, it's not the end of the contract, because after you sign the contract, the execution becomes important. How are you going to execute the terms will be something that's very important for both parties or for multiple parties, right? And right now, all the digital signing platforms, they are not handling the execution part in the whole workflow. Therefore, the next phase of Ethsign will be it will be a self-executable terms embedded into the traditional PDF signing. So essentially, we are making some of the terms in the contract to be self-executable between third parties to bring automation and trustless environment to everyone. Think about right now, it's a globalized world where international contracts and cross-border operations are happening more and more often. Especially many of the times, the contract will only have like small checks and like small amount of period of time. If they have conflicts during those scenarios, it'll be very hard for a party to come to the other countries and to press charge or to sue the counterparties for not committing the terms, right? So essentially, that's where our next product, which is called a smart agreement, comes to place. The smart agreement essentially will be divided into two parts. One is a smart execution. The other is escrow of funds. Okay, and let me dig into some more details. Here we present a generalized smart agreement workflow that mostly breaks down into 3 steps. First, we need to define a data source where live data is pulled from. The data source can be either on-chain or off-chain, as we use chaining oracles to fetch our off-chain data. And also we are probably going to use Gelato KP3R, not just chaining keeper. Then we need to define a trigger condition. This can be any comparison operation, such as greater than, less than, or equal to. We also need to provide an expected result or threshold value to use as a comparison. Lastly, we need to define the execution logic. It will be a simple font transfer as seen in our freelancer use case. I'm probably going to explain that as well, but it is also entirely customizable for our users. We plan to release a few official templates that covers the majority of use cases. Execution logic is triggered once a trigger condition is met, and all of it is done automatically thanks to chain keepers and other automation tools. As I said, we are currently working with some first scenarios or some use cases with some leading players with our smart agreement. But we're not going to provide this whole general smart agreement framework right now. We're going to customize some big use cases with a freelancer platform within DAO, investment DAO, and also some other credit lending platforms. So before that, we're not going to outsource this as a platform, but users can already get a taste of what smart agreement can do to the world, right? And after those customization, which will be around 3 to 4 months, so the beginning of next year, we will be open this platform, a general platform, to everyone that can build their own use case on top of it, and that's what we're really excited about. So really make the contracts to be not just signed or stored in the centralized versus decentralized storage blocks, but also focus and emphasis on the execution part, which we believe is the next phase of how contracts will work and the automation will work in the future. Yeah, I also mentioned that we are going to have some use cases in the investment DAO scenario. So essentially, right now, the same framework can be easily used in a KPI-based investment. Funding can be released to the project team based on the progresses. We're actually customizing scenarios for investment DAOs because, as you all know, the investment DAOs, they raised more funds than ever before. For example, BitDAO, they raised more than 500 million USDs in the treasury, and how to manage that treasury in a more transparent way within all the DAO members is very essential, and is what they are trying to focus on, right? And essentially, we will make investment DAOs, like DAO to DAO lending, distribution, and lockup terms more credible and accessible for all parties involved by replacing the human factor in the execution with code. Here, would say that humans or manual work is not trustworthy, right? But code is. So Ethsign smart agreement will be embedded into all that workflows to create a better scene in the DAO environment as well. And yeah, that will be all from my presentation today. And feel free to ask me or seeing any questions. And please follow us on our socials. So our Twitter is essentially Ethsign, same as our LinkedIn. And also you can go on directly to our ethsign.xyz, our website, to join our Discord and our Telegram as well. Thank you all, and great to meet you all. And let me know if you have other further cues. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, very happy to see all the exciting updates and progresses made by the Ethsign team. We also did throw a party with Ethsign in Vegas a few weeks ago. It was a blast. Very happy to work with their US team. Yeah. Last but not least, I want to welcome the HackerLink team. Who have perfected the quadratic funding mechanism protocol in the past few months. HackerLink is one of the teams that conducts most advanced research, how we can bring a better quadratic funding to the community. So welcome, Eric.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, so I'm very excited to see all of the amazing projects from our grant. And I think, so I think we have 2 days to go. Now we have a leaderboard listing of the 8 projects. I think 2 projects, 1 project is not here today because they're in Africa. They're building a polling application for African politics, which is super interesting. And if you're interested, you can go to the HackerLink platform and look at the build. All of the detailed information are there. So today I'm going to introduce the new version of the Quadratic Funding Protocol, which is solving some of the existing problems of the original version of Quadratic Funding, which we call it Quadratic Funding V1 protocol. So over the past 1 or 2 years, both HackerLink and the other platforms like Bitcoin and the CLI Fund, they are experimenting quadratic funding. So mostly people are using the algorithm introduced by Vitalik Buterin. But actually the idea of quadratic funding was originally from quadratic voting, and the current version is kind of like a combination of different thoughts from history. Like quadratic voting is like an improvement of the traditional democratic voting system, but also you have matching fund, which was originally invented by Benjamin Franklin, who raised funding to build a first university in the world, which is currently the Pennsylvania University of Pennsylvania. So what is missing from the Quadratic Funding V1 protocol? Basically, we have a few problems. We have the CPU resistance and the identity problems. We have the equality considerations, because when you have quadratic funding, you are basically powering the influence of the vote, which will make the inequality problems more severe. So if you look at the original paper, so the green part is the contribution from the donors, but also the yellow part is the matching fund, which we call it the support area. So when matching fund is distributed, it's distributed according to the support area. So because the support area is kind of a quadratic function of the total contribution, so the equality problem is more severe in quadratic funding than original like 1 person 1 vote funding. And also we have collusion resistant problem, and also scalability and adoption problem. So I'm going to go through this one by one very quickly. So if you look at the very early stage QF round, for example, this is the Binance Smart Chain Quadratic Funding Round 1, happened earlier this year. And if you look at the leaderboard, it's pretty interesting because there are several patterns highlight the quadratic funding. So first of all, so at that moment we got like 300 BNBs for the matching fund, but the community contribution is far beyond the matching fund on the Binance Smart Chain. So other people were donating to the open source projects. So I would say there were some CPU attacks, but there were also a lot of community contributions. And if you look at the rank, so for example, the Blind Box project received a lot of BNBs from community from the community, but actually they received less subsidized matching from the matching pool. So why is that? So probably it's because less people contribute to this project, or some big donors donated some very large amount of BNBs, and that resulted a net less support area, and then it receives less fund from the subsidized pool. But in general, it's a way to have the community contribute to a list of projects from certain ecosystems, which can be considered as public goods or common goods. And in the end of the day, we can distribute the subsidized matching pool based on the donation from the community, which is also the voting result. So, so given all these problems, we are solving them actually one by one. So the first problem is a CBO attack, because with on-chain voting, you actually, so some people will be able to forge identities. But actually, speaking of CBO attacks are not only happening in quadratic funding or any on-chain or decentralized governance. CBO attack happens everywhere in the world, in the democratic system, in elections, voting, etc. But in the traditional world, identity is a big problem. So the way the government or centralized organizations solve these problems is to provide a centralized identity solution, for example, passport or other ID. So with on-chain governance, we can still do centralized ID, but it might be harder to incorporate the centralized ID systems into a decentralized governance application. The reason is that the centralized ID, first of all, they're not totally secure, but also it's pretty hard to fit that into a workflow of any decentralized governance protocol. So I think similar things, if you take a look at Ethsign, Ethsign is like a decentralized e-signing protocol, and if we have a decentralized application, for example, we have a auction protocol, we want to have user KYC or user identification or user signing, we better integrate the workflow of another decentralized application into our decentralized application. But if we do a centralized application, it's going to be harder and more have more exposure to attacks. So how can we do this? So first of all, if we want to have a decentralized solution, we recognize that CBO attacks is actually a cost problem. So later we designed a ID system. It's called Dora ID, and it's a decentralized identity and staking framework. And the goal of Dora ID is to provide a general decentralized autonomous DID framework in the Dora Factory infrastructure, so that we can allow any organizations or pilot developers or users to stake token and then get provided a decentralized ID. And later we build up this system, and then now it's available online. So there is a staking game incorporated into our Quadratic Funding V2 protocol, which is so the round owner, like people who are running the Quadratic Funding round, they can develop a mechanism based on Dora ID and addresses with certain staking requirements. They can have more weights when they are voting or donating to the public goods or open source projects. So in this way, we highly increased the cost to conduct any civil attacks, and the concept is implemented into Dora ID, and we're actually using Dora ID in our newest quadratic funding round. So if you're interested, check out the URL and also Dora Factory's Medium platform, and you can just go over Dora ID for the framework. So so previously we were actually doing post-round analysis, which is super important. So every quadratic funding rounds, after the round ends, we conduct post-round analysis. So it's data-driven, it's based on pattern matching. So we have done that for BSC, Filecoin, Solana, and many other rounds on HackerLink. As you can see, many ecosystems are running quadratic funding rounds on HackerLink. So basically, we're doing post-round analysis for most of these rounds, and the result is satisfactory because most of the civil attacks has clear pattern, and we have those patterns, and we have a certain closed-sourced model, and we do pattern matching after the round ends. So actually, every time we do that, we can distribute the matching fund pretty fairly. So this happens after a few rounds initially heavily attacked. Yeah. So what's the problem of post-round analysis? Basically, we can identify three problems. The first problem is it's closed source, so it relies actually on our centralized analysis after round, so it brings in certain elements of centralization. Secondly, it's pretty time consuming because sometimes there are a lot of votes coming in, and our scripts must scratch off the votes from the blocks, and sometimes that's very time consuming. That takes a few days to analyze, so the results will be delayed. And lastly, there might be loopholes in our analysis, and there might be undetected patterns. So it's not a ultimate solution. And currently we are combining Dora ID with post-round analysis, but we're also improving Dora ID for anti-civil staking mechanisms, and with better anti-civil staking, like decentralized anti-civil staking mechanisms, we can eventually we might be able to eliminate post-round analysis. So the other problem of quadratic funding is the inequality problem. So because the fact that I described earlier, the support area is a quadratic function or power function of the votes. So if some project got a vast community support, and that will result a even bigger inequality from the round, which means the top projects will receive a lot of funding, and the medium results will have like the projects in the middle and on the lower range will receive less funding. So the idea of solving the inequality problem is from the progressive tax system, which has been working during the past century, and it has reduced inequality of the post-World War towards greatly, and even for now, it's working pretty well. So we're borrowing this idea and developing the progressive tax system into quadratic funding. So the way we are developing a progressive taxing on-chain governance system is to make it programmable, actually. So we can add the algorithm into our protocol and make the algorithm dynamic, so that a progressive tax can be charged once like each vote is conducted. So we have an article describing this mechanism on its research forum, and basically what we're doing is to define a tax ratio, and the tax ratio is actually changing every vote. So every vote, so after every vote is casted, we can calculate the tax ratio of a certain project, and the tax will be charged, and it's going to be contributed to a common pool. And after that, we can distribute the common pool to all the projects, so we can eliminate certain level of inequality. And the result is still being experimented, and we are deploying the algorithm into the Quadratic Funding V2 protocol. So the new rounds, including Polygon grants, which is happening in 1 day, and the Platon grant hackathon, we are experimenting progressive tax system in the QF. So the last problem is scalability. So one problem we haven't been tackling is the collusion problem. So first of all, collusion also is not on-chain specific. It's a real world problem. So there is something called ballot harvesting. This is happening, I think, in most of the elections and democratic system, but also in non-democratic systems. So collusion is like a common problem of our time. So it's actually debated quite a lot in the Ethereum research community. And one of the solutions is called the minimum architecture of anti-collusion. So there is a minimum anti-collusion infrastructure. So it's based on a operator which operates centrally, and all the votes will be casted from the users, but encrypted with the public key from the operator. So when the operator receives the public key, the operator decrypts. When the operator receives the votes, he or she will decrypt the voting results with her private key, and the result will be exposed to the operator. So the operator does certain statistics and gives results, but also provide zero knowledge proof, just proving the result is accurate and truthful to the community, and so on. So MACI is one of the solutions, but it might be a solution that is too strong because it eliminates all the social aspects of the voting process, and it's kind of making the process boring. So what we need to do is actually to find a middle ground where we can actually keep the social aspect of the quadratic funding rounds, but also reduce collusion in certain degree. Because in the end, the community is donating and the community is voting. So you can't just say that every promotion is collusion, but we have to define collusion in a very specific way and use certain zero knowledge technology to prevent large scale ballot harvesting behavior. So collusion is not not something we have been incorporating to our new protocol, but we are sponsoring certain groups doing some research, and we expect to have something interesting coming out in the next few months. Lastly, I would like to talk about quadratic funding rounds beyond crypto. So with on-chain governance, actually, we can do a lot of interesting things. So quadratic funding can be available to a larger audience. So something we can think about, for example, DAOs. As we can see, even today, we have DAOs that are not totally crypto native. We have quantum developer DAOs, and we have event organizing DAOs. And DAOs can be very general, and they can be beyond crypto. So quadratic funding can be one of the best ways for DAOs to distribute funding to the public goods or common goods the DAOs are granting or supporting. So we can imagine there can be a lot of non-crypto DAOs using quadratic funding mechanism to fund public goods. And secondly, we have nonprofit organizations. And recently there is an article from our community talking about a new mechanism called continuous common good funding, or CF. CF is like a new funding mechanism based on bonding curve to support common good projects or nonprofit organizations. So you can imagine all the nonprofit organizations use QF, and also governance or corporates can use quadratic funding to help with decision making. So if you want to make quadratic funding scalable and beyond crypto, we need to think about the scalability problem. And in the end, we need to propose anti-CBO solutions and anti-collusion solutions, and also ways to mitigate inequality in the voting system so that we can actually scale quadratic funding. We just deployed our quadratic funding V2 protocol last month, and we're now experimenting of the mechanisms in real QF rounds on HackerLink. So just check out all these quadratic funding rounds and hackathons on HackerLink, and you will see how the new mechanism and the QF work in the real setup. Yeah, so that's my presentation today, and if you're interested, just join us on GitHub and maybe contribute to our code base.
That's great. Yeah, our team has been working hectically on improving quadratic funding to our community. More interesting features will be added, including discussion into privacy, how we can integrate privacy into voting on QF in general. So yeah, we're very happy to research into it and bring more advanced products to the industry, to our hackers in the future. So yeah, that's the last of the presenting projects for today. We originally scheduled a discussion panel where we want everyone to discuss more about their vision of DAOs how they will be decentralizing their projects, what their view of the service they're providing to the community. Why do this part of the business need to be decentralized instead of like it's better than the centralized solutions out there? I think we'll save it for another session where we can have a more detailed discussion. We're already very amazed by a lot of progresses each project make since the beginning that we know them, since the beginning of the DAO hack, which already lasted for 2 months. We already see a lot of amazing progresses that every one of you make. So congratulations on your recent progresses and keep up the good work. And we're just remember the Dora Factory is here. Our team will constantly support you in many ways to grow a project. And people in the audience, if you happen to be building an on-chain governance protocol, building a DAO, we're very happy to support. And people in the audience, if you want to work with any of the project presenting today, please reach out to us or reach out to them directly and partner with them. I'm pretty confident it will be a mutual beneficial partnership for each and every one of you. And I personally kind of hope that the projects presenting today, you can work with each other because you are all providing different kind of services, and I think very meaningful for you guys to work with each other to grow your protocols into larger scales. Yeah, I think that will be all for today. Good luck on the future development for projects of your community, and I hope to see you guys again in the next Dora Factory Community Grant Session and DAO Hack. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.